Hello and welcome once more to the history of comic books. My name is Paulo Costa, and we have another episode of the series regarding the early history of WildStorm Productions, the company that was founded by Jim Lee in 1992 and that was part of Image Comics' initial push. And Jim Lee did not stay at Image. In 1998, he sold out. He sold the company to DC, and it became a functioning imprint of DC Comics, although still operating out of their facility in California. And the focus point of the restyled company was Warren Ellis, who had gone to become quite the acclaimed writer and the Stormwatch title. And in the new in the renewed publishing company, the WildStorm logo was redesigned, and lots of titles were restarted from number one. Stormwatch was canceled to make way for a brand new Warren Ellis comic, and also using Brian Hitch, who had drawn issues number 4 to 9 of the Stormwatch Volume 2. And the new comic that took the world by storm, by WildStorm, was The Authority. This was a complete revolution in the way that WildStorm operated, and it was definitely a big influence in the way that superhero stories began to be told, not only at WildStorm, but also at Marvel and DC. What we had here in The Authority, it was the pinnacle of the Reconstructionist age of comics. The heroes here, they were still inspiring and unapologetic, but they had the consequences that we've come to expect from the Deconstructionist era, with extreme violence and destruction, where superhuman action meant that there was going to be a lot of damage and a lot of consequence for everybody in general. Uh, some of the way that was felt by the normal people in the WildStorm universe, who did not spend much time with civilians, unlike Marvel and DC, was seen on the Majestic titles that would be published a few years later, as well as when Captain Atom left the DC universe to visit the WildStorm universe. But for now, let's stay here with The Authority. Ellis conceived the first issues of stories, divided into 3 4-issue arcs, with art by Brian Hitch and Paul Neary, also British artists, and colors by Laura Dupuis, who became quite well known from her work here. It was obvious by this page that we were going to see a lot of destruction, a lot of explosions. They called this widescreen comics. Not that I see much of a cinematic effect in here. These are definitely still superhero stories, as you can see from the way that the characters are designed. Of course, none of these are the main characters. They start appearing here. So the two remaining members of Stormwatch, the team leaders, Jackson King and Christine Trelane, are now married, but they're working out of an office in the United Nations. And apart from them, there was only one field operative that survived, and the members of Stormwatch Black took off, and nobody in the United Nations knows where they are until they reappear. Right here, this is Jenny Sparks. Jenny Sparks is the way that Warren Ellis inserts himself in the Stormwatch stories. A very opinionated British woman with a penchant for heavy drinking and heavy smoking. The bad guy is also introduced. Here it is. This is Kaizen Gamora. He was already used in a few crossovers inside the WildStorm universe. He looks like a yellow peril character, but who cares, is quite charismatic, even if one-dimensional, just by virtue of his design. And to him, the world is his. The world belongs to him, and that is not acceptable to the team that was once Stormwatch. This issue number one, we'll see many of the original members being reintroduced. And here are the other two members of Stormwatch Black alongside Jenny Sparks, Jack Hawksmoor, and Shanli Min, also known as Swift. Hawksmoor is able to merge with the cities, and Shan usually is a hunter, serves in the capacity of a hunter, of a diver bomber in a way. She has avian characteristics, not only from her wings. Here we were introduced to the new engineer, who can build anything, and the new doctor. The engineer and the doctor concepts were introduced in the previous Stormwatch run. And finally, the remaining two members, Apollo and the Midnighter, who would later be revealed are a couple. And finally, the last remaining member. You saw that the team was 7 people, as is usual in superhero teams. 7 is usually a good functioning number for them to operate and to allow different sets of skills to be showcased without them stepping on each other's toes. But there are occasions where the place where the team congregates is a member unto itself. We can see that in Avengers Mansion, in the Fantastic Four's Baxter Building, or the JLA's satellite or moon base, or Titan's Tower overlooking harbor, the New York harbor. And this, the WildStorm already had a patch for big imposing structures. Stormwatch already operated in space from their carrier, from Skywatch Station, and if something someone can operate from space, it needs something bigger for this comic. So the carrier, it's a shift ship, as it's described, and it has the ability to traverse through dimensions, through the bleed. Another concept that Ellis had created for Stormwatch. We see everybody in action by the end of the first issue, and all the characters have their own epithets. Apollo is called the Sun King, and the Midnighter is Night's Bringer of War. The engineer is the Maker, the Doctor, the Shaman. Jack Hawksmoor is referred to as the God of the Cities. Swift is the Winged Huntress, and Jenny Sparks, team leader, is the Spirit of the 20th Century. So it's quite obvious from the way they're presented by both the writer and artist that they're supposed to be iconic. These are real superheroes and not the overarmed military units that we were used to seeing in the previous WildStorm. As you can see here, the team posing in a very classical pose, menacing, showing the bad guys that they are not to be trifled with. That thing continues with the first arc, issues number 2, 3, and 4. What we have in these issues is ways that the team learns to fight against larger menaces. Kaizen Gamora is using his family's DNA to create hundreds or even thousands of clones, and they all have very destructive capabilities. So you have a team of 7 superheroes that will have to deal with all of these. Think of them as what if all Hydra agents had the powers of all the X-Men. and that's kind of what we see here. Their powers are generic. The idea is that they're muscle, but the team is always ready to go into action. Most of them have powers well above the average of what regular superhero teams are used to have, like even on a JLA level, even with a Superman analog. The It takes the team 4 issues to locate Kaizen Gamora and figure out how to beat him. So we also need to get some time for them to stand around and plan their next move. This is not only explosions. This is the authority working working from the carrier. This is not going to be easy to showcase all the art, because Laura Dupuis' art is coloring is very good, but as this type of computer coloring loses a lot of resolution when I'm trying to show it through a camera. I can see that we have visitors. Hello, Rez. How are you? Yeah, another episode with with a class on WildStorm. I thought I'd get to the good stuff finally. After Damien described in one of his comics that from my a couple of episodes ago that I was going through the drags in my collection. But I do have a good reason to showcase the WildStorm. They were the first universe that I followed beyond Marvel and DC. Okay, so continuing. Issue number 4 sees the authority going for big solutions. This is how. This is how they managed to solve the problem of having hundreds of superpowered attackers in the sky destroying cities. The Doctor was quite inventive in a way that he turned everybody into trees, but Apollo is not afraid of having an old school fight with lots of opponents. And Midnighter, as the Batman analog, is sneaky. So he manages to get past the force field that protects Gamora and invades the city. But instead of destroying it from within, he gets an idea. And that means using the carrier itself to destroy Gamora. Even though we had the type of destruction that we're used to seeing from the WildStorm universe, this first arc ends on an upbeat note. Jenny Sparks actually turns out to be quite charismatic in a way that she gets the team to play well, and she's quite invested in making sure that this works. And she's going to need it to work because the next story arc here, in the first story arc, we dealt the authority dealt with an earthbound menace. They were quite dangerous. So what could be more dangerous than someone that can unleash thousands of superpowered attackers? Well, you have to get them from a different universe, and that's what happens in the secondary arc. Issues 5, 6, 7, and 8. You'll find that the type of covers that they were using for the authority, they're more conceptual than what was normal for superhero comics at the time, and they became the norm for superhero comics. There's another visitor. Hello, Pedro. No, I'm not going to do anything about awesome entertainment. I actually have very few Rob Liefeld books, so I probably won't cover them in this manner, but we'll see if I can find out a way to do a different format. You're in the second story arc. There's a different dimension that is ruled by blue aliens. They sort of became the British royal family, and they were discovered by British secret services in the 1950s. Jennifer Sparks was in the British Secret Service at the time, and she became aware of them. She knows them, and she's even married to one of them. Let's see if I can figure out which issue that is. I think it's here in issue number 6. Here's Jenny Sparks doing a Dan Dare impersonation, and I these covers are terrible in this camera. This is somewhat better. This is set in the 1950s. You can see the blue aliens that that are part of the alternate reality. And here's Jenny Sparks with Lord Emp, who at the time was using the identity of Saul Baxter. That's how they get this reality. They have the ability to use and build shift ships, and that's what they use to invade the Earth over here. Their plan is to terraform the Earth and turn it into a slave pen. Jenny Sparks' powers are becoming more encompassing. She's able to do more things and in a larger scale here than in the previous Stormwatch series. And the blue aliens have to react here by issue number 7 after their invasion was thwarted. Still, they had some trouble invading the neighboring dimension. So even from here. But this issue number 7 ends in a sort of ominous note. As Jenny says, we're moving the carrier. What does that mean? She takes the carrier to a different dimension here. But they're not going to use it the same way that the Midnighter used it in the previous arc. Instead, they first they have to kill the main baddie, and what they need to do is move the Earth in a way that basically kills everyone in it. So the biggest super baddie on the planet, the biggest super baddie from another planet, what's left? Maybe God. And that's exactly what happens in the third and final Warren Ellis arc at the Authority. These 12 issues are an apotheosis of superhero comics. They show everything that superheroes can become, both within their destructive potential, but also in their inspiring potential. They are beautiful and terrifying, which I think that it's a way to describe it was that I first saw in the Lord of the Rings. The new guy in all the new guys in all of this are the engineer and the doctor. The doctor himself is the one that is most seen as a rookie, no experience and having a real hard time adjusting. Although if I had the ability to talk to all my predecessors who are dead and literally reshape reality, I'd probably go a little nuts as well. The new madness begins to show itself here, killing a couple of astronauts, and then starts appearing here in manifesting in Central Africa. And also on the moon. and it's going to be hard for the authorities. This is unlike anything. It's like they're being attacked by the Earth's biology. This is Hitch going full on the widescreen, even when he has lots of panels to draw, which is a work of art. And we can see that the problem is that everybody's going to have to rid the Earth of this problem. This is the most destructive enemy that any Earth super team ever had to deal with. Not only that, there's a problem. Jenny Sparks is the spirit of the 20th century, and this was December 30th, 1999. And Jenny was expecting to die at the end of it, even though, as they tell they say in the end, the century is not supposed to end in December 31st, 1999. It was supposed to end in December 31st, 2000. Jenny dismisses it as consensus majority. Everybody thinks this is the change of century. So be it. And Jenny is one of several other individuals that were born on January 1st, 1900, and that Warren Ellis used in a lot of his stories. No. Ultimately, the problem is revealed to be that this menace that comes from outer space is actually the creator of Earth. It is an alien being that terraformed the planet, and instead of staying on Earth living, simply left and allowed nature to take its course, but was not expecting a bunch of oxygen-breathing multicellular animals to be living in it. So they need to get inside of it to destroy it. And in the end, Jenny Sparks saves the day and the planet. And dies. But is also reborn. This baby will appear a lot more often in the future as Jenny Quantum, the spirit of the 21st century, and with a different set of superpowers. Now, the Authority was a big seller for WildStorm at the time, even for DC, which kind of upset the higher ups because this was outselling Superman, Batman, and the JLA with Superman and Batman analogs, pastiches, who were having a homosexual relationship, and this kind of upset some people. So they were asked to, the creators were asked to tone it down. Warren Ellis didn't do it because he left to pursue other things. He had another series going on at WildStorm at the time. So he was replaced by the new Scottish sensation, Mark Millar, with Frank Whiteley doing the art. I'm only going to show the first Miller arc because it's the only one that's actually readable. There were several editorial problems with the continuation of WildStorm, of the Authority at WildStorm, and there were delays and there were changes in the artwork, and the story ultimately became unreadable, and Mark Miller stopped caring. And the first thing he does is that without Jenny Sparks here, it's quite obvious that the team, they're not disintegrating, but they're acting differently. They don't have their inspiration. Oxmoor becomes the team leader, but everyone just kind of starts acting in a way that they're mostly doing their acting out of personal vengeance. They're deposing dictators here, which was something that people complain that is what should happen if superheroes were in charge. They should were real. They should be able to go to other countries and never mind international law, just depose dictators. And then what? Because they never show the consequence. The Authority also become celebrities here. and that's another of the problems. There will be parties in the carrier. All the superheroes in the WildStorm universe will go there. Then Smart is in trouble adjusting to his new role as team leader. Then a bunch of Avengers analogs appear. This is the beginning of what would become the Ultimates, where Mark Miller and Brian Hitch finally worked at the new Ultimate line at Marvel. The Ultimate line is the direct descendant of WildStorm's Authority. Here it is, the Avengers. I'm not even sure if they have names. They're not supposed to have names. We're just supposed to look at them and recognize them as the Avengers. And so this kind of becomes this enters the realm of parody, which is not something that the Authority was supposed to be under Warren Ellis. This kind of reminded me at the time of Martial Law, which was definitely a parody comic, pointing out all the major flaws in superheroes, in the way that Watchmen was a lot more serious, that Martial Law was just making fun of the concept. Jenny Quantum is introduced here. This is the main bad guy from this arc. And instead of arresting him or killing him, the Authority are just going to work with him. Of course, some things are not to be forgotten, and this is how Midnighter dealt with the way that he was humiliated by the Avengers analogs. So I'm just going to show this. Although there was one interesting aspect from Miller's run in the title, was that there was room for a couple of mini-series exploring the origins of the Authority. And here's issue number 1 of the 5-issue miniseries, The Secret History of the Authority, where Jenny Sparks takes a center role. She's present in the pretty much present in the origin of all the members of the teams, as well as important chronological points to the formation of Stormwatch, the Authority, and other events in the WildStorm universe. Especially because it retcons the idea that the superheroes were an early occurrence. There were a late occurrence, that they only started appearing in the 1960s and 70s, that they go back much further, not only because of alien involvement, but also because of genetic experiments and time traveling and interdimensional traveling. This was also a way to cash in on a character that was already dead. But it was quite interesting to see another side of Jenny. This is how they recruit the new Doctor. No, Colonel Sparks, I don't want to save the world. Shove off. So that was it. There were also a couple of different concepts that spun out of the Authority. Obviously, that DC wanted to do a cash grab on something that mildly sounded like the Authority. So they launched 2 new series. One was The Monarchy. A lot of people badmouthed this at the time, but I actually enjoyed it. This was a way to bring Jackson King and Christine Trelane back into the fold. They also resurrected Unity and created a new Condition Red, who is not the Grifter's brother. And they tried to up the ante. They tried to use a different set of powers and a different set of concepts to use the characters. This only makes sense if you read it in one sitting, because the stories themselves, independently, they kind of lose steam if you had to wait 1 month. But there's a lot of different interesting characters around here. issue number 2. Lane get married. Let's see if I can show Unity's new look, which is supposed to be a bit more terrifying. Yeah, here it is. This was a Superman analog. I think he became a lot more interesting after he died. Just going to show the curves from now on. Eventually, they discover that Henry Bendix is not only alive, he's actually the tool that they need to save the universe and several other universes. They also make mentions of going to different realities where John Lennon and Jim Morrison are still alive, and they do an acoustic concert and get the CD from there. That's this is issue number 3. Number 4. Number 5. This is where we start seeing that Henry Bendix is still alive and important to the story. Number 6. Number 7. That's the problem with this type of covers. You can see that you have no idea what the story is about just from looking at the covers. The covers were supposed to entice you into buying the story. These don't do anything except be nice art, and they get to the point that at this time, if you did not buy a series from number 1, you were not going to start picking it up from any point whatsoever, even if there was a brand new story arc. Number 9. This is Condition Red, who here is not Grifter's brother. An alternate authority. 11 and 12. This is good enough. This is good enough and enjoyable enough if you read it in one sitting. So too bad that there was a trade of the first 6 issues, but not of the final arc, which is kind of a shame. If you read the 12, and it's not a bad read. And then here's something that you kind of expect: the British version, The Establishment. If you are a fan of British science fiction, you are familiar with the concept of the fate of the universe is decided in the United Kingdom, an island nation on planet Earth. You see a lot of that on Doctor Who and also on other stuff, other TV series from the UK. In fact, this is number 1. You'll find that a lot of the characters that appear here are supposed to be analogs from British TV series and films. See if I can show you. There's not a lot happening on issue number 1, is it? Issue number 2. This is a Daemonite, but that's not important. Okay, now we're cooking. These triplets over here, they're supposed to be the children from Village of the Damned. Here's the actual team. The guy up front and center turns out he's Miracle Man. Behind him, here, this is supposed to be the Doctor, although he's Indian here, and you can see them quite well from here on. Here it is. the Doctor. In fact, that's what he's doing, is being the Doctor, a Doctor. This is not a good place to show that. I want to show the other analogs. Okay. They make use of the imagery from the Authority quite a lot, but this does have a British feel to it. Okay, better here. So in the team, as you can see, the other two that I wanted to identify, these two, they're supposed to be equivalent to Emma Peel and John Steed from the British Avengers series. Issue number 4. Issue number 5. This is them there, basically. Issue number 6. Issue number 7. Issue number 8. Issue number 9. There's another baby Damonites. Issue number 10. Issue number 11. Let's see if there's where. This is where, yeah, we start going to other dimensions. There's a lot of time traveling at the end of the series. This thing here is supposed to be a descendant of the time traveler from H.G. Wells' Time Machine. Here it is. And here it is. So they go to the end of the universe, bit of a Doctor Who thing, and they find Majestic, and they need to restart the universe. And that happens in issues number 12 and 13. Basically, what happens is that they jumpstart the universe from the beginning. They're using Spartan's brain, Spartan from the Wildcats, and that's it for the Authority. This was as I explained in the beginning, this was a very influential comic. Both Brian Hitch and Mark Miller will take their ideas from here and move them to the Marvel Universe with the Ultimates. Then those ideas will begin to infect the regular Marvel Universe, thanks to Brian Michael Bendis, also Miller with Civil War. And WildStorm basically becomes an imprint for mature readers with this. Which is why next week I will be showcasing the way that the Wildcats were the big super paramilitary team, X-Men analog team with lots of muscles and guns. What they became in this new WildStorm, in what I call Joe Casey's social economical theories, a comic about economics. So I hope you enjoyed revisiting the Authority as well as its spin-offs, and I'll be back next week, as I said, with the Wildcats. I hope to get this WildStorm series wrapped up in probably 2 or 3 episodes. And well, until next week, so keep reading old comics. Bye-bye.